now broadcasting on Star Worldwide Networks. It's Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery. Healthy Senior Living explores all aspects of creating a happy and healthy senior lifestyle. As the premier mobile dental practice in Arizona, we have mastered the art of delivering the highest quality dental services in our patients' homes. This show will bring you an engaging and ongoing discussion with the leading voices in the field about the best options and strategies available to help seniors live healthy and comfortable lives. And now it's time for Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery.
And welcome once again to Smiles by Delivery's Healthy Senior Living. I'm here with Michele Trent. I'm Roger Downey. And this is kind of an interesting idea or concept that we're going to do today. And next week, as a matter of fact, we're going to introduce and interview each other.
That's right.
And find out something about the other person, probably that we didn't know, but at least tell you what that's all about and how we are doing what we do and why and that kind of thing. So Michele, hello, it's good to see you again. Last week I was here by myself.
That's right. You were here by yourself. We felt that we could entrust you to run the show by yourself. You'd proven yourself over many episodes. And in fact, you did a fantastic job. I listened to it and I thought, wow, he is just so good, of course, at what he does and being able to put together the story and navigate it from beginning to end. Well done, of course.
Thanks for the pats on the back.
Sure.
That's always nice to hear. This is a program that's brought to you each week by Smiles by Delivery. We should mention that is the Valley's #1 source of mobile dentistry. That's an interesting business concept because generally when you go to the dentist, you go to the dentist. Mm-hmm. You don't just sit around the house waiting for the dentist to show up. But this is a new style of dentistry, which is really good for people who are stuck at home, who may be an elderly parent, it may be a sibling or a parent that is in a home who can't go to the dentist or doesn't have that option. And Smiles by Delivery brings the dentist to them and takes care of their teeth. And one important thing that I've learned about that is that healthy teeth are great for elderly people because they can develop all kinds of diseases unless they have healthy teeth. So that's another factor that's involved there. Don't want to get sidetracked on this because we want to talk to Michele about what she does when she's not here doing Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery. You have a website.
I do, yes.
And it's rememberedwhen.com, right?
Well, close. It's rememberedwell.
Remembered Well. I'm sorry. Here I am. I've got the information in front of me, and I didn't even read it. But anyhow,
you could use my services, Roger. I'm just saying.
I need to remember better, is what I need to do here. At any rate, tell me about Remembered Well. What is it about?
Well, Remembered Well is a business that I started in January of 2017. And the idea behind Remembered Well was really kind of born out of the experience that my family and I went through when my dad sadly passed away from cancer. And it was just a daughter's desperate desire to save a piece of her dad. And so my husband made the suggestion, because we are both in media and or marketing, so we had access to the kinds of equipment that you would use to record someone. And he said, let's record your dad when it became evident that this time he wasn't going to rebound. My dad lived through all the expectations that the doctors had set for him. He really was just such a fighter, and yet this time it was just apparent he wasn't going to come out on the winning side. And so when my husband said, let's ask him to record a story, and I thought, oh, no, I don't want to do that because it just seemed morbid, right? I didn't want to, Dad, we know you're dying, so let's collect what we can. And so my husband asked him, and my dad, and I should have expected this because my dad was just such a gamer. He's such a positive guy, and he was totally down for it. We wanted to do something that was of value. He had limited capacity at that point. Obviously, he was in the hospital bed at Mayo Clinic, and so he couldn't get up and around. I mean, there was very little he could do, and it just felt like it was productive, and he hadn't done anything like this before and been recorded, and so he was very much up for it. So we came, every day, because we could only record my dad at that point for a really short period of time, just because of his breathing and all the treatments that he had and everything. And what I found through that was not only how fantastic it was for me and my family, but what the nursing staff said to me is they said, oh my goodness, every time that you guys are done, your dad, his attitude just changes. And he looks forward to you guys doing this, and he's just so happy and positive and upbeat after. And I thought, wow, there's really something to this, beyond just the sentimental value. I thought it just never occurred to me that there would be health value. So after my dad passed away, we kind of fast forward several months. And as I looked into this more, I realized, there's a whole discipline out there about this, and adding sort of that completeness to someone's life as you look back, memories make more sense, why things happen make more sense. You can kind of put together, and they call it, integrity, just kind of living out your life and really being like reflective on what you've learned. And so through this experience, I just had this burning desire to create a business, because I thought everyone needs to do this. And many people are not in the same situation as my husband and myself, don't have access to the resources, the time, maybe they're just not like emotionally able to do it at that time. So I thought, this is something I can do and I want to do, because I thought the stories were fascinating. I learned so much about my dad I didn't know.
And I'm no psychologist here, but I'm wondering too, just from what you've described, is how your dad picked up and became, much more lively at the time. That I think people want to be well remembered. That's a play on a problem that I said earlier, but they want to be well remembered.
Right.
Right. Somebody cares. That's really what it's about. Now, you started this business, and you put it on the net, and so you have this website. I've looked at it. It's a very nice website, by the way. And it's very well done. You guys know what you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm a newbie at this, so I'm still learning. But anyhow, when people come to you, how do you describe this service to them, or do you describe it to the person you're going to interview?
Well, it depends. There are very much two distinct audiences that we serve at Remembered Well, and that is adult children who want to do something to, like I did, to preserve their parents' memories and stories. And then there's also the storytellers themselves that want to do something that they can then pass along to their kids and grandkids and all future generations. So, it would differ, of course, depending on the audience. But in both occasions, it's an opportunity to preserve your personal legacy. It's an opportunity to create this robust calling card, if you will, into the future. All of us have these incredible life experiences. We're all so different. We all sound so different. And through audio, what I love about it is you can capture that. And unlike, we can help out if somebody wants to do a book as well. But one of the things I really like about audio is it's your story told your way. It's not somebody deciphering what you said. It's what you said. And yes, I do editing because I want it to be highly listenable, and I want to take out things like coughs and chokes and weird tangents and doorbells and dogs barking and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, it's still you telling your story as you remembered it. And that is your truth. And no one can tell your story better than you can. You're the only one that's lived it. So what happens if someone passes away and they don't tell their story is people then find themselves trying to remember, what did Dad say and what was that thing? And in fact, recently a gentleman I know who I explained my service to, he said, I wish I had known about your services before. And I hear that all the time. But he's risen to a point where he's pretty successful in and of himself. And he said, my dad always talked about this one make and model of Corvette. And he said, I want to buy that car because I'm in a position now that I can. He says, I can't remember what it was. And he says, I can't believe I can't remember what it was because my dad talked about it all the time. I know it was a Corvette, but I can't remember the specifics. And what a neat tribute to his dad if he was able to do that. But again, he doesn't remember because we don't pay attention, or our parents may have told us things, but they go in one ear and out the other. So this is a way of documenting it, again, told by the person who lived the story, so that way you will always have it.
And this doesn't have to happen near the end of life either.
Great point.
The best time is probably, when you're enjoying retirement, there's no health issue or anything like that, because you have, an ability to remember a lot more at that stage. This would be, great for grandparents right now who are watching their grandchildren grow up, knowing that those grandchildren will probably never have an adult relationship with them.
Right.
So this would be an opportunity for you to provide them with how grandma and grandpa thought about the world and how they sounded and that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I think some people, when they hear the idea, they think it's usually a really good idea, and they think, well, I'm going to get to that someday, and we all know what happens with someday. But they really do think, well, I have a lot of time between now and whatever that day is, and I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to be here any longer. But the reality is, you're never going to be closer to your history than you are today. Those memories of your youth are never going to be more clear than they are today. They're not going to be more clear in a week, in a month, and 2 years from now. The only thing that's going to happen is the details are going to continue to fade. So why not record it now when it's fun, you have full command of the memories, you maybe have time and would like to do it. And so, yeah, don't put it off, because, again, there are so many circumstances when we put it off that then you can't tell it. I mean, it would have been very likely I wouldn't have been able to get my dad's story, except for my dad being like, yeah, I want to do that. But a lot of people would be like, no, I'm not going to do that now.
I speak personally here that I wish I had something audibly of my dad or my mom. And that didn't happen. Here I am was in the media and didn't even consider that, or probably didn't think I would ever, need to do that they were going to be around forever.
Of
That's the
course.
way we always look at our parents. So here I am without that kind of thing. And yet there are people, and I know one person who has done this, my cousin, when her husband died, she never changed the recording on the phone, so that whenever someone calls her, they hear her husband say that he's not there right now, but leave a message and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And that's why she's left it there. She wants to be able to hear his voice. She calls that number.
I've heard that story many times over, and in fact, my own mother-in-law passed away very unexpectedly, and that's the only thing I have of her is of a voicemail message ever wishing me happy birthday. And I don't know why I didn't erase it, but I'm so thankful that I didn't. And so what I do is I take that, the phone message machine, the voicemail messages, and it's on steroid, because I'm interviewing them for potentially hours, depending on how much their life story that they want to tell. So it's so much more robust. If you like a little bit, let me tell you, you would like so much more to hear about a chapter of their life, of how they felt about school, or what their parental structure was like, the house they grew up in, how they met and married their spouse. We kind of walk through all these different phases and then package it up so it's really highly listenable for them.
When we come back, I want to ask Michele the nuts and bolts of this, because we've been talking about in generalities why this is so key, so important, that maybe you would be interested in. But, how do you set this up? Not only that, but what kinds of questions do you ask? And how do you know what kinds of questions to ask? And that kind of thing. And we'll follow up on that when Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery continues.
Healthy Senior Living will be back right after this. Have you ever wished you knew the story of your great-grandparents, or maybe even your own parents? Hearing personal stories is an irreplaceable way of understanding our loved ones. Recording your story is a precious gift for future generations. Now there's a simple option for getting it done. Remembered Well is an audio recording service that easily preserves your cherished memories. In a few guided conversations, owner and personal historian Michele Trent will help uncover your family's unique story. This custom narrative is then professionally edited, digitally preserved, and ready to share for generations. It's your story, told your way. Find out more at rememberedwell.com.
Where do you go for your news each day? A lot of people use the Drudge Report because they want quick access to the latest stories. You can link to a lot of articles there, but very few about what many people consider important: healthcare. Introducing My Healthcare Report. My Healthcare Report gives readers access to the most important and timely news anywhere about health and healthcare, and without the politics. Visit www.myhealthcarereport.com today and search through the most timely and comprehensive collection of healthcare stories on the web.
Now, back to Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery.
As we've mentioned, Michele Trent is not only the co-host of this program, but she also has a website and a service called Remembered Well. I'm going to get it right this time.
Well
At any rate,
done.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this, but you have an example of what you're explaining.
Yes, let's play a little clip, and then we can talk a little bit more about why I think it's just a particularly special piece.
It was a Deluxe Mercury, better than Cadillac. It was a beautiful car, gorgeous. So we make a deal with the car. The guy, $1,400, said, but with the one condition. Before I buy the car, I want to show my wife and my in-law, because they've been in here a long time. They know more than me. I said, okay. He told me, go on the driver's seat. Okay. I went in the driver's seat, decided to drive the car home myself. So he said, I'll buy the car. He started to write the paper for, for selling the car. Then he said, give me your driver license. I don't even know driver license. You don't even know driver license? I'll let you drive from all the way there to here, and you don't even know? No, I don't even know driver license. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not kidding you. I don't even know driver license. We made a deal, $1,400. Pay cash at that time.
I just love that clip. One, it makes me remember Joseph, who is the gentleman who I recorded. But there's so many things that I like about it. One, he has a thick Italian accent, which you may have picked that up. And sort of the gist of the story was he immigrated from Italy 14 months prior. He had very little English. He had a wad of cash because he worked really hard. And he wanted to buy this car. If you heard the car, it was a beautiful car, beautiful car. And he didn't know how to drive a car or that you're supposed to have a license or any of these things. And here he is, he bought this car. I just think it was so bold of him. He's a wonderful storyteller. You get to hear the sound of his voice. And I know he has 4 sons and multiple grandkids, and they are always going to be able to listen to their grandfather and his wisdom. And this is just a simple clip. I mean, it isn't really deep, and that's what I want to share with people, is that your ordinary story is actually really interesting in all parts of it, even something as simple as buying a car. But again, for his grandkids, they're going to realize that Joseph is the reason that they live in the United States of America today, because he took a risk and immigrated over here with nothing. He only ever had a 3rd grade education. He didn't speak language, and yet he went on to be this really successful businessman. Mm-hmm. And so it's just an extraordinary American success story. And with these clips, you have the sound that he makes, or this dialect, and you also have him laughing, which wasn't in this clip, but I have it in other clips, and that's something that's almost always captured when I do these recordings. And the sound of someone's laughter is just, it's precious.
Now, when you go to interview someone, have you done some homework here? Have you interviewed the family members about what they remember, want him to talk about? Do you then sit down with them and ask him, questions on a piece of paper, or do you let the conversation progress beyond that?
Mm-hmm. Well, a little bit of both. So the first thing I do, if somebody's interested, then I will meet with them, and we just sort of have a strategy session of what they want to accomplish. And that's going to determine how much time that we're going to set aside for this, because what I want to make sure is that I cover the things that are most interesting or most dear to them as part of the recording. And so we'll talk about those things. If they only want to record for maybe a couple of hours, we'll sort of strategize, okay, what do we think we can cover in a couple of hours? What are the stories that are most valuable to you that we make sure we want to cover? And I have those notes. Now, if the storyteller is commissioning the story, of course, it's up to them. If a son or daughter is commissioning the story for the storyteller, I want to meet with the son and daughter and say, what are the really special memories that you have and the stories that you've heard from mom and dad? Because I want to make sure that I cover those things as well. And then, so I have a rough outline. And then I guess just from doing this now for a year and a half, I feel very confident that as long as I'm hitting the beats of the story, and there are certain things about, your family structure, whether or not had siblings, where you grew up, your schooling, there's just, it's kind of a chronological beat structure of the story. As long as I'm hitting all of those things, then wherever the conversation happens to go, then the follow-up questions will be associated to whatever stories come to mind for the storyteller.
And, everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story.
And that's the beauty of this whole thing, is that there are details that perhaps he hasn't shared or she hasn't shared with any of the family members. They know the basics of the story,
right,
but the details are really what makes that story come alive. And I'm sure that's when you think, wow, this is great.
Yeah, without a doubt. It is the details that make it so interesting. And I think that's a benefit for having somebody like myself who I'm just unfamiliar with the story. Because one, I don't know their family history, so they can't shorthand it with me. They have to explain it in detail because I don't know, or I'm going to ask the dumb questions like, wait, did you have a brother? Well, did he have a separate room? Like, what, did you guys fight? I don't know any of these things. And family members maybe have heard it so many times that they can just shorthand the story. Oh, Ronnie, how he was. I'm like, well, I don't know Ronnie, so explain him to me. So it forces them to provide more of those details to an unknowing audience. And in the future, their great-great-great-grandkids or what have you, they're going to be an unknowing audience. So they need all of those details included in there. And again, with everybody, the details sort of fade over time. So even if the kids had heard the story a million times, like the Corvette story, can't remember that make and model, that year of that car. You want to, but you can't remember it even though you've heard it, 100 times.
So let's say you do a 2-hour interview with one person.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time for anybody to sit down and listen to it. So they're probably, that wouldn't probably be the best way to handle it. Mm-hmm. So you edit it. So out of that 2 hours, how much time do you think you end up with?
It is a wide range. So it very much depends on the ability of the storyteller and also whatever distractions are going on. So it's really anywhere from 40 to 70% is what they're going to end up with. Now, we've had shows, of course, about dementia, and those are, anybody who has early onset dementia, those ones are the hardest to kind of come up with. So you're going to net less than somebody who doesn't have that. And then through the editing process, I break it down into chapters. So if I was recording them for 2 hours, maybe they net, 50% of it. So that's an hour. But then I'm going to break that down into maybe 15 different chapters. So the chapters are going to be maybe 3 minutes to 10 minutes in length. Because you're right, I would, unless you're on a long road trip, the chances that you're going to listen to 2 hours of somebody telling their story are pretty rare. But you will listen to 5 minutes about how they met and married their spouse, or 10 minutes about their business career, or 3 minutes about this and that segment, which are just some of their favorite things that they have in life. So just try to make it really bite-sized, and also so you can collect that information or the stories that you want when you want them. So for example, I recently, I was having one of those entrepreneurial days, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so difficult. And so I pulled up a story from my dad about his early business days. He went on to be, he was, quite the entrepreneur and built a great business, but I went back to those days and I just listened, and it reminded me of how hard he worked and what a struggle it was for him to get his business launched. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'm right where I need to be. And my dad did it, and I saw him on the other side of it. So I'm like, I'm just on one side of the mountain, but it just kind of gives you inspiration when you need it.
Until you mentioned that, I didn't even consider inspiration as being one of the purposes of listening to somebody who, I valued. Mm-hmm. Here I am thinking about my dad. I could have easily learned a lot and kept learning a lot just by listening to him when I needed to. So let's say someone is listening to this conversation and thinks, wow, I'd really like to do that. How would they how would they get in touch with you? What's the process?
All kinds of ways they can get in touch with me. They can give me a call. Of course, it's 623-696-6998. If they just want to do some shopping around, they can, of course, go to my website, rememberedwell.com, and they can go on there. There's an FAQ page. There's a little bit about me. There are also sample clips, so they can listen to little snippets from other stories and kind of get a sense of what it's all about. Or they can email me, Michele, and it's 1L, so it's Michele at rememberedwell.com, and they can email me and inquiry that way. And then all initial consultations are, of course, those are of no charge. So maybe it makes sense for them to do this, or maybe it doesn't, or maybe they really have their heart set on a book and I can help advise them in that regard, or we can talk about, the situation that their parent's in, or, what they want to capture. So all that, of course, is free, and then they can determine at that time whether it's something they want to move forward with. And then we'll kind of determine, okay, we think it's going to take this much time, and we'll get some estimates, and I'll meet with the storyteller, and away we go.
So is there a form then that you have them submit to you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just really basic. It's just a contact us form. I don't have them fill out a whole lot of other detail because these are so very custom. It could be one person. It could be a two-person. It could be, getting different background. They might want to include some audio. They want to do custom music. I mean, there's just all kinds of different ways that we could take this. And then during that initial consult is when we'll kind of sort through what they want to achieve.
This could make a great gift, really. I mean, this is something that you don't ever find or buy for somebody who has everything. You know what I'm saying? They have every knick-knack in the world. I mean,
Right.
That's what my parents had.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy them anything. And now,
Right.
of course, my children find that same problem with me. You can't buy me anything because I already have it. This is a gift that will keep on giving, as they say.
Yes, I completely agree with you 100%. I should have you record a commercial for Remembered Well. I mean, it's the gift for somebody who has everybody, and I ran into the same challenges, and so with my mom. I mean, she has everything that she wants. So it's not a thing, and this really is. It's a gift because it shows that you're honoring the person that you gift it to, saying you are so valuable to me that I want to preserve your wisdom, because I think your wisdom lives on beyond you, beyond me, to my kids, grandkids, and all future generations. I do want to say if somebody wants to do this as a gift, I'd love to be able to help them out. We have gift certificates and, bags, and of course the gift box and the USB, which the story comes on, we can provide. But if they wanted to do this to give to their kids or grandkids for Christmas, that's something we would need to jump on right away, because it takes some time to edit and prepare all that. It's not an overnight project.
That's right. And what kind of media does the audio come on?
Yeah, it comes on a USB drive, and it's their MP3 files, so they're pretty small files in comparison. And I always encourage everybody to, upload it and download it and share it a million ways and save it to the cloud. Not only do you have this hard copy per se, this digital copy on a USB drive, but it's made to be shared. That's where the true value comes.
Yeah, don't hold on to it and then lose it, and then you're out all of that information and that memory. Again, it's rememberedwell.com, and that's past tense, rememberedwell.com, and it's Michele Trent, and you can reach her at Michele, 1L, at rememberedwell.com, and her phone number is 623-696-6998. Well, it's really been a pleasure learning more about your business, Michele. That's more than I even knew, so if nothing else, you have shared that with a lot of people, and they will enjoy sharing their story with you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Roger.
You've been listening to Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery, and join us again this time next week. I'm Roger Downey with Michele Trent.
Thank you for listening to Healthy Senior Living with Smiles by Delivery, the premier mobile dental practice in Arizona. Catch the show live each week at this time or 24/7 anytime on demand on StarWorldWideNetworks.com.